Zinedine Zidane or David Beckham?
Oh, that's going to hurt.
Oh, yes!
Got to make this.
It was a cold winter evening at Kensington Palace, the kind of night when the City of London seemed to freeze in time. The world outside the palace gates bustled with its usual chaos, yet inside the walls, a sense of calm pervaded. Prince William sat at a grand wooden desk in his private study, the weight of a difficult decision pressing heavily on his shoulders. His thoughts were in turmoil, the words echoing in his head like a constant drumbeat. "David's going to kill me," he muttered to himself, the words filled with a mix of dread and disbelief. He stood up and paced the room, looking out over the dimly lit cityscape. His phone buzzed on the desk, a text message lighting up the screen. It was from his longtime friend, David Beckham. William's stomach sank. He knew this was it, the message he'd been dreading. Beckham was not just any friend. He was a global icon, a man whose career had spanned continents and who had earned the adoration of millions. But beyond the fame and fortune, Beckham was William's close confidant, a trusted ally through thick and thin. The two had bonded over shared experiences, both navigating the pressures of their public lives. Beckham was, in many ways, a brother to William. So when the Duke of Cambridge had to make a choice, one that would inevitably disappoint Beckham, it felt like a betrayal. He hesitated before unlocking his phone. The text read, "You sure about this, mate? Can't say I'm happy with your decision. You know how this goes. You better be ready for what comes next." William ran a hand through his hair, letting out a deep sigh. It was the warning he had expected, but it still hit him like a punch to the gut. The decision in question, a brutal one that had taken months to come to terms with. William had, in his capacity as a royal figure, made the call to publicly support a rival charity, one that Beckham had worked tirelessly with for years. It had been a strategic move, one meant to further the goals of his family's foundation, but it came at a steep cost. The next day, the headlines would blare with the news of William's charity endorsement. The backlash from Beckham's camp would be swift and unforgiving. He knew his friend wouldn't be pleased. David Beckham wasn't the type to sit idly by when he felt wronged. And now, William had to face the fallout. As the minutes ticked by, William's mind drifted back to the fateful conversation with his wife, Catherine. She had tried to warn him, urging him to consider the personal consequences of his actions. But William had been steadfast in his resolve. The charity endorsement was a step in the right direction for the royal family's initiatives, and he couldn't let personal friendships cloud his judgment. But now, as the reality of the situation sank in, William couldn't help but feel a pang of regret. He had known Beckham for years, had shared countless moments with him, both good and bad. They had laughed together, consoled each other through tough times, and supported one another's families. To betray that trust, even if it was for the greater good, felt like a line that shouldn't have been crossed. "Maybe I should call him," William muttered, his hand hovering over the phone. But deep down, he knew it wouldn't be that easy. Beckham wasn't the kind of person to accept a simple apology or a half-hearted explanation. The two men's relationship was based on mutual respect and understanding, and right now, that respect was on the line. Just then, a knock on the door broke his train of thought. "Your Royal Highness," came the voice of his assistant, interrupting his solitude. "Mr. Beckham is here to see you." William's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't expected Beckham to show up so soon. It was clear that the football legend wasn't one to waste time when there was an issue to be addressed. "Send him in," William replied, his voice steady despite the nerves running through him. Moments later, the door opened, and in walked David Beckham. The former footballer was dressed in a sharp suit, his trademark style unmistakable. But today, there was something different about him. His usually confident smile was absent, replaced by a look of cold determination. "Will," Beckham greeted him, his voice betraying a hint of frustration. "David," William replied, rising to his feet. "I didn't expect to see you here so soon. Beckham didn't waste any time with pleasantries. "You've made a hell of a mess of things, mate," he said, his tone blunt. William sighed, bracing himself for the confrontation. "I know this isn't what you wanted to hear, but it was a decision I had to make." Beckham's eyes narrowed. "A decision? You've thrown me under the bus, Will. I've put my heart and soul into that charity. And now you're going to turn around and support their competition." William winced at the harshness of his friend's words. It wasn't the first time they had disagreed on something, but this felt different. This was personal.